She is the only daughter of the King of Pop. She grew up hidden inside Neverland Ranch, the most magical and mysterious place on Earth. Her father was your entire world until the day the music stopped. She is Paris Jackson. But just days ago, Paris Jackson dropped a bombshell. She filed new court papers accusing her father's estate executors of using Michael Jackson's own money to mock and belittle her. She's skipping the star-studded premiere of the $150 million Michael biopic, calling it a sugar-coated lie and saying she has 0% involvement. She's no longer the little girl protecting her daddy's legacy at all costs. She's a 28-year-old woman fighting for the truth, even if that truth shatters the fairy tale. From the princess locked away in Neverland, to battling addiction, surviving trauma, and now going to war with the billion-dollar machine that controls her father's fortune. This isn't just another celebrity story. This is Paris Jackson's raw, complicated, and unbelievably human journey, the side of her life almost nobody gets to see. If you've ever wondered how the daughter of Michael Jackson went from daddy's little girl to speaking truth to power, you're not going to want to miss a single second of this. Hit that like button if you're ready for the real story. Subscribe to Black Legend and turn on notifications, because today we're going deep into the hidden corners of Paris Jackson's life. The love, the pain, the transformation, and the fight that's happening right now. Chapter 1. Life inside the Neverland bubble, hidden from the world. Picture a little girl with wide green eyes and a mop of dark curls, running barefoot across endless green lawns that stretch farther than any backyard she could imagine. This wasn't just any childhood playground. This was Neverland Ranch, 2,700 acres of pure magic tucked away in the rolling hills of Santa Barbara County, California. A private amusement park with a gleaming carousel that spun under twinkling lights at dusk. A real zoo where giraffes stretched their long necks toward the sky and monkeys chattered from the trees. A movie theater where she and her brothers could watch Disney classics on a giant screen whenever they wanted, or at least whenever they'd earned it. Paris Michael Catherine Jackson was born on April 3, 1998, in Beverly Hills, but her real home, the only world she knew for the first 7 years of her life, was this fantasy kingdom built by her father, Michael Jackson. To the outside world, he was the King of Pop, the global superstar whose face lit up billboards and whose music blared from every radio. But to Paris, he was simply Daddy. She didn't know his name was Michael. She didn't know he sold out stadiums or that millions of fans screamed his name. "I just thought his name was Daddy," she later recalled in her raw 2017 Rolling Stone interview. "We didn't really know who he was, but he was our world, and we were his world." Every day at Neverland felt like stepping into a storybook, but one with very real rules. Michael was determined to give his children the childhood he never had, yet he refused to let fame swallow them whole. Homeschooling started bright and early. There were no lazy mornings scrolling cartoons. Paris and her brothers Prince and Blanket sat at desks with strict daily lessons. Michael made sure they earned every reward. Want 5 new toys? Read 5 books. And he'd quiz you on every page. Behave all week? Then and only then came the golden weekends, choosing between riding the Ferris wheel, visiting the animals, or curling up in the private theater with popcorn and a movie. In the kitchen, Daddy transformed into a master chef. He taught Paris how to make the best fried chicken, sweet potato pie, and French toast on the planet. Soul food that filled the house with warmth and laughter. Music filled every corner, too. One minute they'd be listening to Tchaikovsky's sweeping symphonies. The next, Tupac's raw beats would bump through the speakers. Michael didn't just play songs. He taught them to feel the music, to understand history with a critical eye. He'd sit with Paris and explain how Christopher Columbus wasn't the hero the textbooks painted, how real stories often hid pain and truth. At just 8 years old, when Paris shyly admitted she had a crush on a girl from a magazine cover, Michael didn't scold or shame her. Instead, he laughed gently and teased, "Oh, you got yourself a girlfriend?" planting seeds of open-minded love in a house that celebrated difference. But even in paradise, shadows of the outside world crept in. After the intense 2005 trial that rocked the family, Michael decided it was time to leave Neverland for good. The ranch that had been their entire universe slowly emptied. For the next 4 years, life became nomadic, a whirlwind of hotels, private planes, and hidden getaways across Ireland's misty green countryside, the deserts of Bahrain, bustling European cities, and beyond. Michael was intentional about it. He didn't want his kids growing up in a bubble of 5-star luxury alone. He showed them both the glitz and the grit, street markets where people bartered for food, villages where children played without toys, moments that taught empathy and humility. Still, the world's eyes were always watching. To shield his children from the flashing cameras and screaming fans, Michael had them wear masks or veils in public, sometimes full disguises that made Paris feel like she was in her own secret spy mission. "I was really confused, like I didn't get why I was wearing a mask," she admitted years later. But looking back, she understood. Daddy was trying to give them what he never had, a normal childhood, even if it meant hiding their faces from the paparazzi who chased their every move. Those years on the road were a beautiful kind of chaos. Paris remembers late-night talks with Daddy, the way his voice would soften when he tucked them in. He was strict about school and behavior, but his love was overwhelming. He cooked for them, danced with them, protected them fiercely. Neverland had been the physical bubble, but even after they left, that protective love traveled with them, a cocoon of safety in a world that wanted to tear them apart. By 2009, Paris was 11. The magic was starting to feel fragile. The constant travel, the hidden faces, the weight of a fame she still didn't fully understand. It all painted her early life in colors both vibrant and bittersweet. She had giraffes and roller coasters, yes, but she also had a father who cried to her at night about the world's cruelty, even if she was too young to grasp every tear. Neverland wasn't just a place. It was a feeling. A fleeting, enchanted bubble where a little girl named Paris could believe the whole universe revolved around her daddy's smile. Man, writing about Paris's childhood hits different every time. I feel this deep ache in my chest for that little girl running through Neverland's gardens, completely unaware of the storm swirling outside the gates. On one hand, it's heartbreakingly beautiful. A dad who built an entire world just so his kids could feel safe and loved in a way he never was. On the other, you can't help but see the cost. She traded a normal life for this enchanted isolation, and that trade left invisible cracks that would show up years later. I'm not here to judge Michael, I'm just sitting with the complexity of it all. Love like that, fierce, protective, all-consuming, can be the greatest gift and the heaviest burden at the same time. Chapter 2. The bond with her father, from absolute love to the slow unraveling of truth. And now we come to the bedroom at Neverland was dimly lit, just a soft glow from the nightlight, shaped like a moon. 11-year-old Paris lay curled under the covers, her small hand resting on her father's arm as he sat on the edge of the bed. Michael Jackson wasn't the glittering king of pop in these moments. He was simply Daddy, exhausted from another long day of rehearsals, his voice low and cracked with emotion. "They hate me, baby girl," he'd whisper, tears slipping down his cheeks. "The world hates me for things I never did." Paris didn't fully understand the weight of those words at the time, but she felt them in her bones. She'd squeeze his hand tighter, promising silently that she would always stand by him. He was both father and mother to her, the one who braided her hair, taught her to be proud of her black heritage with quiet fire in his eyes, and showed her what real kindness looked like. "You come from strong roots," he'd say, pulling her onto his lap during those late-night talks. "Never forget that, and never judge people until you've walked in their shoes." Tolerance wasn't a lesson, It was the air they breathed in that house. Those nights stretched on for years. Paris later described them in her 2017 Rolling Stone interview with raw honesty. Daddy would cry to her every single night about the accusations, the tabloids, the cruelty of a world that seemed determined to tear him apart. He shielded her and her brothers from the worst of it, but the pain still seeped through. In the quiet of Neverland's sprawling ranch, with its carousel lights twinkling outside the window, Michael poured everything into being their protector, their teacher, their safe harbor. He taught Paris to love fiercely, to question the easy stories history told, and to carry herself with the same unapologetic pride he felt in his own skin. It was absolute, all-consuming love, the kind that made a little girl believe her father was invincible, even when the tears came. Then, on June 25, 2009, the music stopped forever. Paris was just 11 when the news broke. The world watched as the Jackson family stood at the public memorial, but it was Paris's moment at the microphone that shattered hearts everywhere. Dressed in black, her voice steady but cracking with grief, she stepped up and said the words that still echo. "Ever since I was born, Daddy has been the best father you could ever imagine, and I just wanted to say that I love him so much." The stadium fell silent except for the sound of tears. In the days and weeks after, Paris clung to the belief that her father had been taken too soon, not by natural causes, but by the very machine that had profited off him. She and her siblings became convinced AEG Live, the promoters behind his final tour, bore responsibility. The grief was a tidal wave, but so was the loyalty. Daddy was innocent. He had to be. For years, that loyalty held firm. Paris defended him publicly, calling the endless accusations tabloids and lies. But something began to shift in 2019 when Leaving Neverland aired. The documentary featuring Wade Robson and James Safechuck hit like a second earthquake. Paris took to Twitter with a mix of defiance and exhaustion. "Y'all take my life more seriously than I do. Chillax, my dudes." Privately, though, she started pulling back. In interviews, she said quietly, "It's not my job to protect my father anymore." She was 21, no longer the little girl hiding behind masks on those world tours. The protective bubble her father had built was cracking, and for the first time, she allowed herself to breathe outside it. The real earthquake hit earlier this year when the Cascio siblings, once called Michael Jackson's second family, filed explosive federal lawsuits in February and March 2026, making very serious allegations of misconduct against her father from when they were young. Paris didn't turn away. Instead, sources close to the family revealed she had grown especially close to Connie Cascio, the mother. There were long, candid conversations, the kind that happen over coffee in quiet living rooms, not in front of cameras. Paris listened. She asked questions, and according to those insiders, she came to a heartbreaking realization. She now believes some of the stories are true. Paris knows exactly what her father did, one source told the Daily Mail in April 2026. She has reportedly told close friends she may go public when she's ready, but for now, it remains a private storm. This shift has caused real tension inside the Jackson family. Some relatives see it as betrayal. Paris sees it as truth-seeking. At the same time, she's been locked in fierce battles with her father's estate executors, accusing them in fresh April 2026 court filings of using Michael's money to mock and belittle her while pushing a biopic she calls sugar-coated and full of full-blown lies. She wants nothing to do with it. The little girl who once stood at the memorial, vowing her love for Daddy, is now a 28-year-old woman staring into the shadows of the very legacy she once defended with everything she had. But watching Paris evolve from his fiercest defender to someone brave enough to face the darkest truths in 2025 to 2026, that's heartbreaking courage. I feel her pain like it's my own. It's like losing him all over again. At the same time, I deeply respect the victims finally being heard. Real love isn't blind loyalty. Sometimes it means seeing the whole person, light and shadow, so you can finally heal. Paris is living proof of that. Chapter 3. Life and Major Turning Points, from Collapse to the Journey of Recovery. The silence after June 25, 2009 was deafening. For 11-year-old Paris Jackson, losing her father wasn't just the end of a person, it felt like the end of her entire world. The man who had been her son, her protector, her everything was gone. The grand hallways of the homes they moved between suddenly felt cold and empty. The laughter that once filled the rooms disappeared, replaced by a heavy, suffocating grief. As she entered her teenage years, that grief turned into something darker. Paris began battling intense inner demons she didn't know how to handle. She struggled with deep self-hatred and low self-esteem. The constant spotlight, the cruel comments online from some of her own father's fans, and the overwhelming pressure of being Michael Jackson's daughter became too much. She turned to self-harm as a way to cope with feelings she couldn't express. She also began using substances, alcohol and heroin, trying desperately to numb the emptiness inside. The breaking point came in the summer of 2013. At 15 years old, Paris had a very public cry for help that shook the world. She was rushed to the hospital after a serious incident that forced everyone to finally see how much she was suffering. It was just self-hatred, she later said. Low self-esteem, thinking that I couldn't do anything right, not thinking I was worthy of living anymore. For years, Paris hid her scars, both the ones on her skin and the ones deeper inside. By 2017, at 19, she decided it was time to speak. In her honest Rolling Stone interview, she openly shared about the scars she carried, both the visible ones on her body and the invisible ones in her heart. She showed the track marks on her arms that her many tattoos now cover. She spoke about the hole in her septum caused by years of drug use. It was a raw, painful confession from a young woman who had been quietly breaking for years. But 2017 also marked the beginning of a slow, difficult turnaround. Paris entered rehab and committed herself to getting clean. Between 2019 and 2020, she finally got serious about recovery. The road wasn't easy. Sobriety brought its own challenges, but she kept showing up for herself. As she healed, a new Paris began to emerge. She threw herself into modeling, walking for major campaigns and appearing on magazine covers. She took on acting roles, most notably in American Horror Story. Music became her true voice. She released music and later collaborated with legendary producer Linda Perry on powerful new tracks like Zombies in Love. With her signature rocker style, head-to-toe tattoos, and unapologetic confidence, she stepped fully into her own identity. She also came out publicly as bisexual, refusing to hide any part of who she was. Today, as of April 2026, Paris has been completely clean and sober for over 6 years. She has openly said, "Hi, I'm PK, and I'm an alcoholic and a heroin addict." Those words aren't said with shame anymore. They're spoken with hard-earned pride. The girl who once felt unworthy of life is now building one filled with purpose, creativity, and honesty. From the depths of unimaginable loss and pain, Paris Jackson didn't just survive. She is slowly rewriting her story on her own terms. You know, I really think it's rare for any girl to come through what Paris went through as a teenager, losing her dad, all that trauma, addiction, the hate from the world, and still rise like she has. She got clean, found her own voice, and built a real life on her own terms. That kind of strength is something you don't see every day. I'm honestly in awe of her. Chapter 4. The Controversies and Hidden Layers, from Legacy Defender to Truth Seeker. It's a warm April afternoon in Los Angeles, 2026. Paris Jackson sits in a quiet corner of a downtown cafe, sunglasses on, blonde hair tucked under a baseball cap, scrolling through her phone while the city hums outside. Just days earlier, fresh court filings landed like a bomb in the probate battle that's been raging for months. At 28, she's no longer the wide-eyed girl who once stood at her father's memorial. She's a woman with fire in her eyes, staring down a $2 billion empire built on his name. The legal war with estate executors John Branca and John McClain has turned ugly. In packed Los Angeles probate court, Paris's team has accused the two men, handpicked by her father, of skimming millions, paying themselves and their lawyers lavish fees totaling $148 million over 12 years, and letting $464 million sit in low-yield accounts, earning almost nothing. She claims they've poured tens of millions, some reports say $10 to $15 million alone, into expensive reshoots for the upcoming Michael biopic, partly to scrub any hint of the abuse allegations that now haunt the family. Paris calls it a botched production and a sugar-coated fantasy. She wants nothing to do with the film, skipped its star-studded premiere, and publicly labeled it full-blown lies and dishonest. In one filing, her lawyers described the executor's attitude as the kind that says, "We'd rather you just said thank you and went on your way." The estate fires back hard. Branca and McClain's attorneys call her objections headline-grabbing, specious, and proof of a complete lack of understanding about how the motion picture industry works. They point out she's already received at least $65 million and insist the estate has grown massively under their watch. The back and forth feels like a chess match played in open court, every filing more pointed than the last, every accusation dripping with years of built-up frustration. But the money fight is only half the story. The real earthquake hit earlier this year when the Casquillo siblings, once called Michael Jackson's second family, filed explosive federal lawsuits in February and March 2026. Four of them, Edward, Dominic, Aldo, and Marie Nicole, accuse her father of drugging, raping, and sex trafficking them as children, starting when some were as young as 7 or 8. The claims are devastating, painting a picture of secret meetings, code words, and years of hidden abuse in Neverland and beyond. Paris didn't run from it. Instead, she leaned in. Sources close to the family say she grew especially close to Connie Cascio, the mother, in quiet, private conversations that stretched late into the night, the kind where coffee goes cold and truths get spoken without cameras rolling. According to insiders who spoke to the press in early April 2026, Paris has quietly come to believe some of the allegations are true. One source put it bluntly, Paris knows exactly what her father did. The girl who once called the accusations tabloids and lies after leaving Neverland has shifted. She now shows real empathy for the victims. There are whispers she may speak out publicly when the time feels right. That quiet evolution has ripped open old wounds inside the Jackson family. Some relatives see it as betrayal. Paris sees it as the only honest path left. And then there are the layers almost no one talks about in public. Paris has always been close to Omer Bhatti, the Norwegian dancer and rapper she openly calls one of her older brothers. The two have shared quiet moments together for years, from family gatherings to casual hangouts that feel like real sibling time. Through her deepening conversations with the Cascios, insiders say Paris has been quietly digging deeper, piecing together fragments of the past that don't fit the official story. It's created real tension behind closed doors, late-night family calls, unfollows on social media, and a growing sense that the Jackson inner circle is fracturing along new lines. All of this circles back to something Paris has believed since she was a child, that her father was murdered. She still holds on to that conviction, viewing the estate battles and the biopic drama as part of a larger game. One close source described her mindset as chess, not checkers, a long strategic revenge against the people she believes profited from her father's death while hiding the full truth. In the quiet of her own home, surrounded by the tattoos that tell her survival story, Paris is no longer just protecting a legacy. She's fighting to reshape it on her own terms. From the girl who once defended her father with every breath to the woman now demanding transparency, accountability, and truth, even when it hurts, Paris Jackson's private war is playing out in public courtrooms and whispered conversations. It's messy, it's painful, and as the Michael biopic prepares to hit theaters in just days, the world is watching to see if she'll keep rewriting the ending. Chapter 5. Current Situation, April 2026. Still full of challenges. Yet even as the courtroom battles and painful family revelations continue to unfold, Paris Jackson in mid-April 2026 is living a life that reflects both her hard-earned strength and the challenges she still carries. It's mid-April 2026 in Los Angeles, and Paris Jackson is living proof that survival looks different on everyone. At 28, she wakes up sober, over 6 years clean now, in a quiet home filled with the scent of fresh coffee and the low hum of her guitar. No more hiding behind masks or running from the pain. She's focused, grounded, and pouring everything into her music. In just a few weeks, she'll take the stage at Bottle Rock Napa Valley on May 23rd, sharing new songs that feel like chapters from her own life. The rocker with the platinum blonde hair and ink covering almost every inch of her skin is finally standing in her own spotlight. But the fight isn't over. On April 6th and 8th, fresh court papers landed like another shockwave. Paris accused the estate executors, John Branca and John McClain, of using their latest status report to mock and belittle her, spending her father's money to make her look emotional and out of touch, while she simply asks for basic transparency. The legal battle that started years ago is still burning hot. At the same time, she's been brutally honest about the $150 million Michael biopic. She skipped the glitzy premiere with the rest of the family, calling the film sugar-coated full-blown lies and refusing any involvement. 0%, she made clear. No red carpet, no photo ops, just her truth. These days, the paparazzi flashes are fewer. She moves through the city with tattoos telling her whole story. The scars, the healing, the battles won. Her style is pure Paris. Edgy, unapologetic, free. And in a quiet, beautiful twist, she's built a real adult friendship with her mother, Debbie Rowe. They've been riding horses together at Debbie's ranch, laughing like old friends who finally found their way back to each other. Still, not everyone is celebrating. Some in the Jackson family worry she's too emotional in the courtroom, that her passion might hurt more than it helps. The question hangs in the air like smoke. Is Paris simply being too sensitive, letting old wounds cloud her judgment? Or is she the only one brave enough to protect what's left of her father's true legacy? Paris Jackson has become the living symbol of a double-edged legacy, loving her father fiercely while finding the courage to face the darkness that came with his name. From the hidden little girl in Neverland's bubble to the strong, tattooed woman now demanding truth and healing, her journey shows us one powerful thing. Life is never a perfect fairy tale. It's a raw, ongoing battle of facing hard realities and growing stronger in the fire. She didn't run from the shadows. She walked straight into them. And in doing so, she's writing her own ending. Now I want to ask you something real. Do you think Paris is being too emotional in her fight for truth right now? Or is she the only one left brave enough to protect her father's real legacy instead of just the billion-dollar myth? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If Paris's story touched you, moved you, or made you see things differently, do me a favor and smash that like button. Subscribe to Black Legend and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next deep, no-filter story. Thank you for watching. Stay strong, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.